As of today, January 11th, 2026, I have run at least 1 mile every day since December 7th, 2024. I've not always been a runner. I don't classify myself as a runner. In fact, I would classify myself as a power lifter. I competed in high school and collegiate nationals, squatting and deadlifting both over 600 pounds and benching almost 400 pounds. It wasn't until competing in collegiate nationals in 2023 that I decided to run my first marathon, not because I wanted to run a marathon, but simply because it was a checkbox on my life to-do list. I told myself at some point during my life I would run a marathon, and I felt that the best time to do it was following collegiate nationals in 2023. So in May of 2023, I bought my first pair of Hokas and I started running on the treadmill. After a few months of lackluster training, I finally ran my first marathon in October of 2023 in Boise, Idaho, the City of Trees Marathon. I ran a 4:40, which is an average of 10 minutes and 40 seconds per mile. Not great. After running that marathon, I didn't run for several months. In February of 2024, I decided to pick things back up. Well, not a lot. I added running kind of back into my routine, and I was running anywhere from 5 to 6 miles a week. In February of 2024, I decided to pick things back up. Well, not a lot. I added running back into my routine, so I was still lifting every day, still keeping lifting as my main priority, and I was running anywhere from 11 to 12 miles a week. So again, not a lot, and until November of 2024, I was running, but in November of 2024, I ran a total of 1.8 miles. Not far. It wasn't until December that I set out on this journey to build my discipline. I'd been lifting and running was something that I occasionally did, but I never enjoyed it. On December 7th of 2024, I told myself I would commit to doing something and doing something hard that I did not like. That was running every day. Ultimately, I hated running. I never found that runner's high that people talk about, and getting out and running was not my favorite at all. And so knowing that that was one of my least favorite things to do, I told myself I would have to do that every day. That decision led to 2025 was one of the most transformative years I've ever had. In that time, I built my discipline, I found God, I prioritized my relationships, worked somewhere that I truly enjoy and still work there, and changed my perspective and outlook on life. And I do think that was from the downstream effects of doing something hard and making that decision to run every day. I feel that it improved almost every avenue of my life. In running, I've done a couple different races in 2025. That was a big year, again, very transformative. So in January of 2025, I ran 122 miles, which was at this point the most miles I'd ever ran. In 2023, my total miles for the year were 228. So I'll put some graphs up of what my mileage looked like. In 2023, it was 228 miles. My maximum mileage was 79 miles in a month. My minimum was 0. And that 79 miles came from August of 2023, so about 2 months prior to Marathon Day. In 2024, I ran 481 miles, and these numbers are somewhat laughable now, relative to what I did this last year, but my max mileage in 2024 was 84 miles, and my weekly average was 9 miles. So a little over a mile a day, probably coming from 3 or 4 runs a week, but my minimum mileage was 0. So there were several months in 2024 where I did not run at all. For comparison, in 2025, my total miles were 2,290, almost 2,291. My minimum was January of 2025, which was 122 miles, and my maximum was December of 2025, which was 252 miles, almost 253. My weekly average in 2025 was 44 miles. And again, I do not classify myself as a runner. I don't think I'm a runner, but I ran a weekly average of 44 miles a week in 2025. In 2025, I did 4 ultra marathons. 2 of them were unsanctioned. July of 2025, I did my first unsanctioned ultra marathon. That was in Boise, Idaho. It was a 0.87 mile loop, and I ran 50 miles in 11 hours and 44 minutes. That was a 14:05 minute per mile pace. Slow, but my first ultra marathon. Prior to that, in April of 2025, I ran my second marathon, the Rock and Roll Marathon, which was a 350. So I ran a 440 in 2023 and then a 350 in April of 2025. That was at 8 minutes and 47 minutes per mile pace, which was a 50-minute PR, on my marathon, which was crazy to me at the time. And then in October of 2025, I ran my first half marathon. This was an impromptu, signed up the week before, and in that I ran a 1:37. I'm putting up all the results here somewhere on the page, which came out to a 7 minute and 25-second minute per mile pace. Now, my Strava at the time when I had Strava, my Strava was 1:35 for the half marathon. This half marathon was a little long, going with race pace, so this one was a 1:37 at that 7:25 minute per mile pace. 1 week later, I ran my second 50 miler, which was a sanctioned 50 miler. It was the BPN Survive the Night Overnight Ultra. I ran a 9:08, which was, I believe, an hour and 44 minute PR, or 2 hour 44 minute PR. That was a 10:58 minute per mile pace, so almost to my 2023 marathon pace. That was a 9:08 total, and that was my fastest 50 miler to date. My third ultra marathon was in training for that BPN 50 miler, which was a 30 miler. I don't have the pace off the top of my head, but that would have been my third ultra marathon. In addition, in November of 2025, I ran my first turkey trot, which I don't do any speed work, had not done any speed work, and I ran a 19:22 turkey trot, so a sub 20-minute turkey trot, which was a huge PR for me. It was a 5K. And in this, I averaged a 6-minute, 13-second pace during that turkey trot. In December of 2025, I ran the shortest day of the year, longest run of your life. And this was a sanctioned 12-hour race, so 12 hours time on feet. In that race, I'll put the pictures here. In that race, my 50-mile time 1 month prior on November 1st was a 9:08. Several months prior to that, it was an 11:44. In December of 2025, I ran a 50 miler in 7 hours and 53 minutes. That is an average pace of 9:27 minutes per mile. In addition, in that race, my total distance in that 12-hour time period ended up being 11 hours and 55 minutes. But my total distance was 67.43 miles. Now, on the race website, they say 67.5. They rounded up, but in total, according to my Garmin, 67.43 miles at a 10:35 minute per mile pace, which was crazy. That was the furthest I've ever ran. That was the furthest and fastest I've ever ran, and I did that in 11 hours and 55 minutes. Funny enough, in this race as well, I PR'd my marathon. So I don't have the pace off the top of my head, but I ran a 3-hour, 44-minute marathon in that shortest day of the year, longest run of your life, which goes to show how much my fitness improved from April of 2025 to then December of 2025. In that time period from January to December, in January, my minimum mileage typically daily was about 3 to 4 miles a day plus a long run on Saturday or Sunday. As I've progressed through the year, that number has typically become anywhere from 6 to 8 miles per day, with a long run averaging a minimum distance of a half marathon and typically around that 15 to 17 mile distance. Now we have 2026, where so far in 2026, I don't have the total. My lowest run in 2026 so far has been 7.05 miles, and my longest run has been 16.5 miles so far. And so we are 11 days into 2026. I'm probably averaging anywhere from 10 to 11 miles a day, and I do not see that number going down. In addition to this, I am still lifting 4 to 5 days a week. I'm still swimming and biking. There's going to be a lot of big things this year, and that goes into, we come to today. I have tried asking myself why I'm continuing this journey, or why I've decided to keep doing this, because now I genuinely do enjoy it. And I did a lot of self-reflection and wanted to come up with something more nuanced to say, but the reality is I love the work. I love doing this. I think everyone has their gifts, and I truly believe mine is physical. I think it would be a disservice to myself if I did not see how far I can push this when it comes to races, sticking to this run streak, as well as keeping up with my lifting, swimming, and biking. So that's what I'm going to do. This upcoming year is going to be even bigger. It's going to be a test of endurance, persistence, strength, speed, grit. I want to test it all. So coming up in March, I have my first 100 miler. After that, who knows? I have 5 or 6 races that are already on the schedule for this year that I'm going to be posting. But it's going to be a big year. I'm excited to keep pushing it. And thank you if you've stuck around watching this video. I know it's a little cut up. I tried coming up with a script. It's not the cleanest looking video, maybe a little more raw and authentic, and that's probably the way it should be. But I will get better with this as time goes on. Thank you for watching. I hope you stick around. I'm going to be documenting all my races this year as well as past that. So if you watch this far, thank you. Consider subscribing, and I'll catch you later.